Hello and welcome with the Aussie Guys. I'm AJ. Here with me is G. How are you, G?
Morning. Good.
Good morning.
Yeah, a bit later than our last pod.
Thank goodness.
Yes. So had time for a decent breakfast.
Yeah.
Coffee, and it's kicked in and
Nice.
time to go.
And you're all set to go.
I am set to go.
And we're going to be talking to Aaron from Hogshaven in just a minute for our Washington Redskins preview.
Bit to talk about.
Just a little bit, man. No source of no shortage of stuff, training camp stuff going on.
It's just one of those franchises, isn't it? That always have something going on, don't they?
Yeah, they
On
certainly
field,
do.
off field, owner.
Yeah.
Got it all.
They do. They certainly do have it all. Okay, let's get Aaron on the line and have a chat. Okay. Hello, Aaron.
Hey, Adrian. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm very good. I've got my co-host G with me here.
Aaron, how you going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent, mate. Excellent. Very well.
Thanks for joining me again.
Yeah, sorry about the reschedule and everything, but I appreciate you guys being accommodating and working around my schedule.
Oh, it's not a problem at all, honestly. Yeah, easily done.
I was going to say, Aaron, I haven't been here anyway. I've been overseas. I've only just got back, mate. So it's worked out. It's worked out well.
Nice.
All
You guys
right.
excited for the football season?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I suppose I'm a Falcons fan, so I haven't actually sat down because the game was on while we were asleep. So I haven't got up to and had a look at it. I just look at the highlights. I won't watch the whole game. But I don't take much into the pre-season because the year we went to the Super Bowl, we didn't win a pre-season game. So
Yeah, I think that's like the trend. It's like you want to go, and same thing with the Patriots. When they had their undefeated season, they were 0-4 in the preseason. So maybe that's a good omen.
I like to think of it that way. Look, what I've seen of us, from a Falcons point of view, is I'm just looking at it out. I've never been too concerned about our offense, obviously, but our defense has got some absolute players. But we even in pre-season, I know that it's the seconds and the thirds and guys, mate. You'd think that even the third guy could stop a third offense running against them. That'd be great. That'd be really good. But we just can't, and we haven't. And as long as I can remember, we haven't been able to stop the run ever. And it just looks like teams are doing it in pre-season against us. Well, they just think. But as far as you guys go, it's all looking positive, but we'll get into that because there's, you've got a few, skeletons in the wardrobe as far as injury history and that goes.
Well, perhaps I'll throw to Aaron and then we can
for sure.
Kick it off.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just...
For real, rather than
for real. Okay.
have you repeat
Not
yourself.
this fake stuff that you're talking about.
We'll tread on stuff
All
that's
fake news.
actual stuff. So, yeah. Okay. All right, well, we've got Aaron from Hogshaven on the line right now. Aaron, warm welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure for you to join us.
Oh, it is totally. And had you on last year, and we had a discussion about how the Redskins were going to go. And, last year, people forget because, they have short-term memory loss. Well, people are not very good. But certainly, the Redskins, they were 6-2. They were 6-2 last year. They actually looked like they were going to win the NFC East. So that was before the Alex Smith injury, gruesome Alex Smith injury. And then, they only won one game after that and finished 7-9. So, and that was with Colt McCoy. So, enough said. But so it was really it really was a tale of two cities. But it's so easy to forget that the Redskins were playing so well last year. But how did you? Well, I was going to say, how do you feel about last year? I know, but what were some of your emotions or some of the things that you remember from 2018?
Yeah, we were 6-3 and going into the Houston game, which honestly we really should have won, even with Alex Smith's injury. Basically got bad luck on a pass interference call right at the end of it. But and exactly like you said, we won one game after that and had a huge, slew of injuries. That was the worst in the league basically. But the team's bread and butter was just strong defense and pretty solid running game, low turnovers. Adrian Peterson had the great season, so it started off really well, and it was we weren't the flashiest team by any means, but Alex Smith was playing well in terms of not turning the ball over, doing his game manager thing, and then everything kind of fell apart with the injuries. And so, there's some good things to take away from the season, but obviously the way it ended, it was just kind of a disaster and everything fell apart. So hard not to be pretty disappointed with the season, especially considering how it was going with when most players were healthy. So it's disappointing for sure, but I think the draft and the offseason overall, there's some positive things. May have our future franchise quarterback. So it was a tough season though, for sure, to be a Redskins fan.
Hey, Aaron, you touched on the injuries, and that it's become a bit of like a case of really bad herpes in Washington, hasn't it? Really, it's you know what I mean. Like you sort of get rid of it for a while, and then it comes back, and one case is worse than the next case, and then you get it on prom night, and then there goes your whole But it is like that, and even it's got to the point now where people are suggesting that maybe got to look into the staff, into the the training staff and the medical staff in Washington.
Yeah, that's the thing that the fans are pretty on edge about, and they've tried to improve the situation. I think they built a special recovery center in the training facility, and they're just kind of doing as what they can, like research what European soccer clubs do and all this kind of stuff. So I know they're trying, but the injuries kind of continue. So far, and we basically just had one bad injury with Reuben Foster. That was like the first day of OTAs, and it wasn't terrible because we basically picked him up for free anyway the year before, so it wasn't like a huge loss. And then with the Trent Williams thing, obviously is a huge issue, but. They're snake bit as far as it comes to injuries. At this point, I think it's more just bad luck than anything. I don't think the sample size is big enough. And being a pretty locked in fan, I know they've taken these measures to try and figure out what's going on with the things I mentioned before. But it's obviously something that we're all like collectively holding our breath for every time there's a big hit or something. Even in these preseason games or, in practice and things like that. So, hopefully it's just, bad luck, and we'll have, our luck will turn around this year and going forward.
Now you mentioned, quite interesting that they've gone over to looked at what European soccer teams are doing. And, you probably can't speak about, other teams, obviously, but you probably get a feel of what other teams are doing, because here, with our code of football, I know that teams regularly at the end of the season, the coaches will go off and they will spend time with. They've been to American football teams. I know some of the coaches here have been to the Patriots, obviously, just because of what they've done and the dynasty that they've built. So you learn from that, but they also go away to some of the great soccer teams, AC Milan, to the Manchester United, and those. And not only do the coaches go and learn something, but also the training staff go and, like you said, they go and speak to their trainers and how they go about it. Is it a common thing with American football that they go away and do the same sort of thing? So I know this is, but American can be a little bit insulated, like. Mm-hmm. It's the end all and be all of things sometimes, and what we do is, sometimes we're the best at what we do. We don't need to look outside, the realms of our own sort of area. But is it a common thing?
Yeah, I don't really know, about the other teams. I think like just generally, it's a good practice to like look at the top other sports organizations in the world are doing. It may not be in the NFL. Because everyone's competing against each other, but you go over to Premier League clubs, Italian league, Bundesliga, all this kind of stuff. Go study what they're doing. Obviously, there's so much money invested in performance and athletes over there as well that you can probably learn a thing or two. So I don't know what other teams are doing. I just know for that the training staff for the Redskins did go over at least to one European club and take a look at what they're doing with recovery and how they train the athletes kind of in the off season to prevent injuries and things like that. Monitor throughout the season.
Yeah, it just
I'm sure that
makes sense, doesn't it? Really, to do it.
Yeah. I'm sure like other NFL teams do similar stuff, but I think it was also spurred by like how horrible our injuries have been just volume wise. It's like trying to figure out what they can do to kind of get better at that.
Okay, let's have a look at some of the ins and outs in the off season, and before. Well, actually, I'll leave the draft because the draft is. I think they had a fantastic draft, but let's talk about the ins and outs first because there's a lot of them. Just quickly, so out of the building, Jamison Crowder. Which is a loss for sure. Maurice Harris.
Big fan.
Yeah.
Crowder, not Harris. But
yeah, Crowder. Yeah. Basically, your whole linebacker core. Preston Smith, Zach Brown, Mason Foster. Mason Foster's still out there, I think. Just sitting on his couch.
Yeah.
Clinton Dix. But then into the building, Case Keenum, which is obviously very handy given the current circumstances. Tackle Eric Flowers, Dominic Rogers-Cromartie, Landon Collins. The Giants, I don't know if he's any good. The Giants didn't seem to want him. And he goes into your defensive backfield. What a handy guy to pick up. How did you feel about all the ins and outs free agency?
Yeah, I mean, going into the offseason, I think most of people knew, we were not going to be able to keep a lot of these guys. Preston Smith got a big contract. Same thing with Jamison Crowder. And then the writing on the wall for like Zach Brown was kind of there because the coaching staff didn't really like him. They didn't think he was kind of smart enough to call the defense, and that limited his versatility a little bit. And his contract was fairly expensive. So those are kind of all the players that we knew we were going to lose. And then Landon Collins, I think a lot of people were really excited about just because he played in the division. He's a really hard-hitting safety. He's really smart, helps against the run, which we've struggled with. And I think he has underrated covering ability as well. He was an all-pro just a few years ago. So I think he's looked really, really good so far in the preseason, and I think he's becoming a leader of the defense and kind of the team. So we're excited about that. Eric Flowers is I think it was a long shot for him to be any good, and so far he looks pretty garbage.
Yeah.
So hopefully we have a rookie that's going to start over him at left guard. But other than that, I mean, Landon Collins is the big one. And DRC, Dominic Rogers-Cromartie, may be able to have some good veteran snaps at cornerback as well. So we got a lot of young players in that position.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it just seems so. I mean, when every team, I guess, is a victim to this at some point, but maybe sometimes it's not quite as glaring as this. But like for the Giants not to want to lock up and sign Landon Collins seems ludicrous. One of the best defensive players in the entire league. And, and then he goes to a division rival and it's like, they're going to have to play him twice a year. So good luck. Let's mix in the draft because I am a fan of your draft. I bet you are a fan of it as well. But as an outsider, I really like it. Dwayne Haskins, obviously, there was a need. Picked a quarterback to bring on, and you've got Case Keenum, obviously, so you can sort of, you're not necessarily throwing someone under the bus straight away. Montez Sweat, fantastic edge rusher. Terry McLaurin, very underrated receiver. Bryce Love, running back. Wes Martin, a guard, and Ross Pierschbacher.
Yeah, I think you got that right.
I think, man, he's got a lot of letters in his surname. But how did you feel about the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I was really, really, really happy with it. I was banging the table kind of on Twitter and elsewhere for Dwayne Haskins leading up to the draft because it looked like we may be able to get him, and I didn't think we'd be able to unless we traded up. But basically, kind of for the second or third year in a row, or 2 out of 3 years, you've had what I thought was a blue chip player fall to us at our draft spot, kind of in the middle of the first round. So I think he can definitely be a franchise quarterback. I've been really impressed with how he's looked so far in the preseason and kind of how he's progressed. And I still think Case Keenum is going to start and should start, but I think sooner rather than later we're going to see Dwayne Haskins starting at quarterback, this season. And yeah, I mean, just the first round alone, getting basically our two biggest needs, edge rusher and quarterback of the future, both in the first round on those 5-year contracts, or the 4+1 contracts was I think brilliant, and really happy with how the front office did it. And then we tried to address a lot of other needs throughout the draft. Hopefully Terry McLaurin works out. Hopefully Wes Martin at guard, and Bryce Love was a nice little bonus pick that he may replace like Chris Thompson in a year or two once he gets fully healthy. So yeah, a lot to be excited about. Obviously, headlining is Haskins and Sweat, but I think there could be some other, at least if not role players, actual starters elsewhere in the draft. So I think for the most part, I'd grade it a pretty high grade, A or so, and hopefully it all pans out. But yeah, pretty excited about it.
No homer grading behind that at all.
Yeah.
But there's actually one play that we you can be. But there's one play we'll pick up that you didn't mention. I don't think. Did you mention Kelvin Harmon? Did you mention him?
No,
I didn't.
No, we didn't.
No.
We'll get round to that. We'll get round to that when we talk about the wide receivers. But we'll start off with the quarterbacks. And as you mentioned, you get your blue chip that you wanted in Dwayne Haskins. But at the moment, it was a bit of a. It looked like it was a bit of a battle at the start, wasn't it, between Colt McCoy and Case Keenum, only from the fact that, you're never going to throw and tell everybody that your starter's going to be, your rookie. But, mate, like Case Keenum, it's one of those things you feel sorry for a guy, and he's got a lot more talent than people think. Look, is he going to win your Super Bowl? Oh, maybe not. He took the Vikings pretty damn close, but... So he gets booted out of there. He goes to Denver. He rocks up in a situation where he's walked in. I was going to say he walked into a buzzsaw, but he walked into a damn, I don't know, like a sandstorm, didn't he? With everything that was going on with Elway not being able to pick, people having to go at him about quarterbacks. You got a coach that was pretty much a dead man walking. You had a youngish offense. You had a defense that was blaming the offense for not getting the job done. It was a pretty hard position for him to walk into, and now he finds himself with you guys. And at the moment, it looks like I was reading that he looks like he's going to be the starter based on the third preseason game. It's not so much that Haskins isn't the guy going forward, but he's just not making a couple of those throws that he should. And it's probably you don't want to throw someone straight into the deep end, do you? But then there are those that say that throwing someone into the deep end is the only way to learn. So it's whose philosophy you're going to go with. But how do you see the quarterback room going at the moment? And at what point could you see, if Case Keenum starts, Dwayne Haskins sort of being moved into the starter's role?
Yeah, it's kind of the main question, I think, for most people that are looking at this team. And I think just like, playing in the preseason with kind of like live action is one thing, but going from that to like regular season where the games actually matter is different. And just game preparation and all the work that goes into game planning for every week for each team. But what I think I've noticed about Haskins so far is he's a really smart kid, and he picks up things pretty quickly. So honestly, week 3, 4, 5, I could see him starting unless Case Keenum's just
balling out,
goes out of the which with this offense and the cast of characters, players he has around him at the skill positions, I just don't really see happening. He had that one good season in Minnesota where he had Thielen and Diggs and, really good players around him. So it was a bit different than what he has to work with here in DC. I can see him after the first month of rolling with Haskins, especially if, we've gotten off to a slow start, which it could be very, very likely given our schedule. I do think his progression's promising. Every game he's looked more comfortable, and just the mental side of it. The physical side, he's pretty much there. His physical ceiling is really, really high. But yeah, I can see them moving on to Haskins sooner rather than later, and maybe before the first half of the season's over.
Yeah, so the guys could part of the reason be we're going to talk about the O-line now, and that's the fact that, look, when they're all together and you don't have the case of the herpes going through the locker room, like it's not the greatest, it's not the worst, it's just a very solid offensive line, but you've just riddled, especially last year, just riddled by injuries all year. And this year you go into the year without Trent Williams, who's it's not a holdout anymore. He's picked up and gone and not coming back, basically, isn't he? So you at the moment you've got is it Garon Christensen at left tackle, who was a third-round pick last year. You got Eric Flowers, who you sort of started to laugh when AJ mentioned his name. But you go and pick up Wes Martin in the fourth round, who's also a left guard. You got, is it Chase Rollier? I don't know if I've pronounced his last name, but guard. You got the first-round pick from 2015 and Brandon Schreff. And and Morgan Moses at right tackle. So the depth probably behind you is a little bit thinner than you probably like. So you got to hope that the bug doesn't bite you again with the injuries. But how do you look at the offensive line? Is that part of a reason too that maybe we'll just roll out Case Keenum to start the season just see how we start travelling?
Definitely. I mean, the kind of well-documented issues with the offensive line, whether it's injuries or, Trent Williams, who's the best player on the team, he's basically said, F this team. I'm not going to play for him, which sucks because, he's been a kind of fan favorite for a number of years, and he's a really tough player. I think the way it's looking now, we'll probably have to, trade him, and hopefully we can get some good return on that. But it's unfortunate. But with the players that are here, I mean, I think we're looking at the starting line being Donald Penn, who's we picked up basically off the street, and then we're hoping the rookie Wes Martin can step in at left guard, and then the rest right side of the line is all started last year and is fairly solid. If Penn can basically play decently, which he's made the Pro Bowl a number of times in his career, even though he's quite a bit older now. And if Wes Martin can play okay, then it can be a decent unit. And then obviously everyone has to stay healthy. But it's not looking too great right now. It's not probably won't be the worst line in the league, but if things have been going the way they have the past couple of years with injuries and such, it could be pretty ugly.
Well, we were talking a bit off about me being a Falcons, and the Falcons went up against the Redskins overnight in the pre-season game. Was it last night? It was last night, wasn't it? Mate, I'm still a bit jet lagged. But
Friday, Australia time.
I was saying, mate, our offensive line. I think the first game I watched when I got back was Matt Ryan getting sacked like 5 times. So you got to be better than our offensive line anyway. So that's better for you blokes than it is for me watching football this year. But so we'll go to the other guys that rely a lot on the offensive line. That's your running back core at the moment. And when you look back over the years at some of the starters, and you must go like you've had Alfred Morris, who looked fantastic. What was it, that 1 year with RG3, and ever since that it's been a slow decline. You have Matt Jones, Rob Kelly, and the best of them of all is the never aging at the moment, Adrian Peterson, to start off his season. But last year you draft Geis, and mate, he breaks off that run. You go, how good is this? And I was like, bang! It's over. The snake bit him right on the ACL, and down he goes. He's out for the season. And look, he's looking good this year in the pre-season. But so, how does it work out? You got Geis Peterson probably being your 1-2. You have Chris Thompson, who's another guy that's just has all this potential. Great in the open field, great pass catcher. Was tearing it up in 2017. I know that's more than 12 months ago, but he got bit by the bug last year as well. So that was probably one of his better seasons. He had 39 passes, already had 510 yards. He was averaging like 13.1 yards per reception out of the backfield. But unfortunately, another guy's only played 12 of the last 32 games. Then behind them, you got Samaji Perine. That's a really deep backup. And then you go out and you pick up in the 4th round, you go and grab Bryce Love, who's getting over his own ACL tear. So how does it all pan out at the moment in the backfield?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a strong group, especially with like Adrian Peterson's, basically like the ageless wonder. But the guys he played for the first time against the Falcons, and he looked, really strong, really healthy. Basically, he averaged 4 yards a carry, and I think he's going to continue to get stronger and kind of faster. And, once he gets fully healed up. So it's going to be like 1-2 punch with them. And then Chris Thompson's going to, be a receiving threat and kind of, halfback draws and things like that. He also had a nice 20-yard run, looked really explosive on Thursday night. So it's going to have to be the strength of the team, the running game. But it's a deep group, and obviously we're excited with Adrian Peterson coming back, Chris Thompson being healthy, Geis coming back healthy and looking good, and then we have Bryce Love that I think could probably not this year, but stash him, and then next year he could be a real nice weapon for us too.
Did you find that an unusual pick in the 4th round, taking like Bryce Love 18 months ago, 20 months ago, was like the spoken about running back coming out of college? Was that with the ACL tear and that? Was it a 4th round? Was something like, we have a few backs, we got Geis said, is that a pick that we needed at that time, or were you just, yep, that's fine, I'm more than happy with the adding to our depth?
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised when I saw we made that pick. But then as I started thinking about it, I mean, Adrian Peterson's not going to be here for forever. We still didn't know if Geis was going to come back, fully healthy or not, and when that was going to be. And then Chris Thompson, I don't think he has that many years left on his contract. He could be coming into the final year of his deal. So, in the NFL these days, you have to have more than one running back. So I think he's a at the very least a good change of pace, number 2 option. But as you kind of alluded to, he was a Heisman candidate in like 2017. Had like 2,000 yards rushing. Was huge player. So there's no reason that what I've heard is that his ACL is healing pretty quickly. So it's something where he's probably not going to play this year, but he might even be able to come back at the end of the season. But at the very least, it's just another weapon for next year, and add to that rotation if players leave or get cut or something like that.
Yeah. All right, so now we move to the wide receiver room, and it's a bit of a crowded room, but I was trying to think of an analogy, and the analogy I came with, it's like trying to work out what table do you put certain family members at a family do. Like who sits with who. So you sort of got your starters in Josh Doxson, Paul Richardson, and Trey Quinn, and when you look at it, you're just going, not great. Not great at all. So you go and that's no disrespect to those 3 guys, but it's not a murderer's row of wide receivers that teams are going to be coming up against, is it really?
No.
And then you go and then in the draft you go and pick up Terry McLaurin, who absolutely tore it up at the combine. Like he ran a 4.35. He's 6'2", 208. He had 125 broad, and he had a 37.5 vertical. Man, he's sort of that tough, underneath, no compromising sort of receiver. I don't want to put him in the Wes Welker and the Julian Edelmans, but he sort of has that sort of college feel as a receiver about him in the college level. And then you go and but everybody just let him drop to, what was it, the sixth round, I think it was?
Seventh, I thought.
Was it the seventh? With Kelvin Harmon. And look, the reasons why he dropped are pretty well explained. That people don't. He's not the quickest receiver, so with that comes does he get separation? People say he's really quite a tight sort of strung, as far as mobility goes, wide receiver. But at the moment, and then there's on the other hand, there's people who are saying, well, he doesn't need that. You got your Ashton Jeffries, who's a bit more athletic, but the same sort of guy. It's not what he bases his game on. Is all out speed. So how did you feel about those two guys? How do you feel about the whole wide receiver room? And behind them, you got Brian Quick, who, mate, I didn't even know he's still around until I saw some highlights of him the other week. Like, that dude's been around for, I think I've written down here 7 years, and he's only had 114 receptions. But that's not a bad way to make a living. You've done pretty well. How do you feel? And who sits at what table, mate? Who gets the front tables? Who gets the table out the back with Aunt Betty? And, mate, not all these guys are going to make the roster, obviously. So, who doesn't make it?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of young guys, which is exciting, but they're also unproven. So, actually, I think the way it's shaping up right now is the starters. If you look at 3 wide receivers that are going to start, most people are predicting that it's going to be Paul Richardson, Trey Quinn in the slot, who probably is going to lead this team in receiving yards and catches, and then the rookie Terry McLaurin. He's apparently really, really impressed in camp and in practice and everything. And what people have been saying is that Josh Doxson may be cut, which is pretty bad for a former first round pick. But the team didn't exercise his option, he's been really outplayed by a lot of the undrafted or young receivers on this team, like Kelvin Harmon and a guy Cam Sims, who's 6'5" and played at Alabama and was hurt last year as a rookie. And so I think what's most likely is those 3 guys are going to start, and then there's going to be a mix of Kelvin Harmon, Cam Sims, and then we took a guy a few years ago, actually Thomas Davis's cousin, the linebacker Thomas Davis, longtime Panther, his cousin Robert Davis, who's kind of a height, weight, speed freak as well. And so I think it'll be 6, maybe even 7 receivers. And just a really young group, and it's probably not going to be very good, but at least there's if we kind of roll the dice with the young guys, there's a chance they develop in the future.
Well, that's sort of where Washington is at the moment, isn't it? You got a quarterback of the future coming in, and you start to roll out these guys. Like your running back core next year is probably going to be pretty young. We're still with Geis and Love, and your receiver's going to be young. You got a young quarterback. It's just is it something to look forward to that a Washington fan sort of holds on to, the fact that, hey, we know that this year's not the year, and maybe the next couple, but we're starting to put together something now instead of just like a hodgepodge just to get through the season.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely hope. Even if this is a bad season, that you've got some pieces to build around on defense, and then with Haskins on offense, and some of the young receivers. So if the season is really, really bad, it's probably a new coaching staff. Yep. Which may not always be the right answer, but yeah, I mean, if the season does go south, I think people are still at this point saying, hey, maybe we can, play really tough defense, run the ball, win really a bunch of really close games, and sneak into the playoffs somehow. But more likely than not, it's going to be another 7-9 type season. But yeah, I mean, the difference between the last season and this season is you've got, a young quarterback, and hopefully he can show promise, and you've got some other talent on the team to build around.
And then just the last position we got is tight ends, obviously. And look, I'm a massive fan of Jordan Reed when he actually plays. I think he's, at his prime outside of Gronk, he's one of the most uncoverable tight ends in the league. But he's never on the field. And once again, here we are dealing with a concussion. He gets wrapped up in a tackle, and I think I don't know if it was it Deion Jones or one of that sort of came in. Was it?
Yeah, it was Neil. It was
Keanu Neal. Yeah, came. I haven't watched it. Came in late. Yeah, had helmet to helmet contact. And now he finds himself. He have to find himself now, Aaron, at the point where my long-term future is got to be far more important than whether or not I step on the field again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the latest with, if he actually got a concussion or what the severity of that is, but obviously it's with the amount of concussions he's had, it's pretty scary. And it may be something that, obviously keeps him out, off the field for longer, which he always seems to be injured. And he actually had a healthy offseason this offseason. Yeah. So then, basically his first catch, he got his bell rung. But yeah, as you said, I mean, it could be even more serious.
It's more
causes him to retire.
Yeah, because it's more the fact that he had that concussion. Was it about 3 seasons ago now, and he missed. He missed like 6 games or something, didn't he? He missed a massive chunk of games, and it's not so much I suppose in the end it does come down to the amount of concussions you get, but when you miss long periods of time, it's sort of, I don't know, it's a bit of a wake-up call. But behind him, mate, you've got, he's a freak, and he without a doubt, Vernon Davis is, mate, you see him catch balls now, and he looks as though he's only been in the league for like 3 years. He doesn't look like he's aged. Well, you can't tell he's got a helmet on. You don't see all the wrinkles and the grey hair and all that. But from that point of, mate, just the way he goes about it, and he's about the only one I can see in the depth chart behind. You got Jeremy Sprinkle, Matt Flanagan. Is it PJ Holtz and Donald? I don't know, pronounce his last name, Parham. And really, he's about the only one who's capable of sort of covering Jordan Reed's duties as a receiving threat.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team has gotten used to playing without Jordan Reed. So, in that sense, it's not really new. And Vernon Davis is, still got speed and everything at his kind of advanced stage. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm hoping he can. If he plays 12, 13 games, that's amazing. For Jordan Reed. But yeah, at least for now, we're just kind of planning on playing without him. But when he's on the field, I mean, the offense basically runs through him, and they're able to do a lot more, be a lot more creative because he, as you said, is kind of just a matchup nightmare, and linebackers are too slow. Safeties are too small to cover him. So yeah, I mean, he's a really good, piece just to open up the offense when he's available.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame because he's not one of these huge sort of tight ends, is he? Like he's a solidly built. Right. What is he? I think he's only like 6'3" or something, isn't he? Like he's not like a 6'5" sort of this sort of monster that comes down the middle, but he's like a super athletic, strong wide receiver. And it's just, like you said, he's just, and when he lined up, and the guys covering him, linebackers and safeties have to watch him, and it's just no match.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a big wide receiver. Yeah, he's like 6'3", maybe even 6'2", but I think 6'3", like 235, 240. So yeah, he's just a super sized receiver. But like I said, I don't know the latest on that concussion and how serious it is. Even if it was technically a concussion, but obviously not good. But hoping it's kind of a quick one. He's able to get recovered.
Okay. Aaron, let's go across to the defense, and there's one area where we'll probably talk the most amount of time, I think, but
Aaron's probably gone, whew. Glad the offense is over. The defense is looking like a really good unit across the board.
But the D line, especially. I mean, the D line is really the unit of the defense. You've got the Alabama wall. You've got those 2 former first round picks in Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. You've got Matt Ioannidis. You've got Ryan Anderson, and you added Montez Sweat. So that unit looks like, they're going to be great against the run. They're going to be generating some really good pass rush. There's a lot of promise there. It looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the bright spot of the team and the defense.
Aaron's voice all of a sudden picked up, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Jonathan Allen fan. I think Deron Payne is going to take a big step forward as well. And Matt Ioannidis is a guy that we took in the 5th round from Temple, who I remember watching and liking a lot, and he's kind of exceeded everyone's expectations. And then we've got the pass rushers, Kerrigan, Sweat, Anderson, who is disappointed so far, but hopefully, I've heard good things about his offseason. And then we've even got guys like Casanova McKenzie, who I think had 2 sacks against the Falcons, against second and third stringers, obviously, but still looked like a solid depth guy. So, yeah, I mean, we're excited about the defensive line, and if they can get pressure on the quarterback consistently, then the defense, should be pretty good.
Mate, don't go pumping someone's tyres up, mate, getting sacks against the Falcons. All right?
And we know
their young guys were kind of banged up, so they weren't playing with like their first team line.
Yeah, that's right. And look, we know the influence that a good defense can have on the performance of a team across the whole, especially a young offense. They can help that young offense, hand over fist. You've got pass rush, and you've got certainly a big run-stopping wall there. And then in the defensive backfield, to complement that, you've got a very strong defensive backfield with obviously adding Landon Collins to that, which is like, man, that very, very nice. Monte Nicholson and Landon Collins in the middle, and then Josh Norman and Quentin Dunbar or whoever on the other side. But the defensive backfield as well looks quite strong.
Yeah, I mean, with the cornerbacks, we've got a lot of young guys, so it's interesting to see who kind of emerges behind, Josh Norman, who I feel like he can be good, but he can also choose not to be. And so it's kind of hit or miss. He'll come up with some big plays, and then he'll get badly beaten in some games and everything. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of young players in the cornerbacks, and then I think Landon Collins is kind of the glue that holds everything together. Really excited about him. He should be fun to watch, and hopefully his kind of experience and leadership and kind of intelligence helps the other guys, just kind of know what they're supposed to do and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's the cornerback group is, I wouldn't be surprised if they're, not super great. And then the safety, I think Monte Nicholson has all the physical tools and looked really good as a rookie, took a big step back last year and had some like legal troubles. But I mean, he had a big pick six in the last preseason game that was kind of set up by Deron Payne, and it was like a 97-yard pick six or something like that. Pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, I think the starters, at least the top 3 or 4 or 5 guys, should be pretty solid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any reason that you went the line to the backfield and sort of skipped the middle?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
I was just wondering what happened. What happened to the middle of the field? It just doesn't exist in Washington.
Yeah, because the middle of the field is a soft, gooey centre. It is chocolate, I tell you. We've got a hard toffee exterior.
We've got to talk about it. Yeah. People want to know. Don't avoid it.
And obviously the Reuben Foster injury hurts. But, I mean, you're looking at guys in the middle here, like Sean Dion Hamilton, who's got some promise. John Bostic, who I feel is sort of just a guy. Josh Harvey Clements. So, you know, they're not scary names.
Ryan Kerrigan.
He's
a singer.
Ryan Kerrigan.
Yeah, he's a singer here in Australia. He's a country and western singer.
He is a country. It's not the same guy.
It's not the same guy?
Funnily enough.
I was going to say, man, he doesn't look big enough to play linebacker.
So, you know, they're not very scary names. I mean, Mason Foster's available. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back. He would want to come back at this point.
But yeah, look, you know, the reason why I kind of thought we'd, you know, do the outside and come back around, circle back around to the inside is because, you know, if you've got especially a good D-line, and a more than adequate defensive backfield, you can kind of make up for, you know, any sort of gaps there are in the middle, especially with the run blocking ability of your D-line.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're hoping because, you know, without Reuben Foster, and we're pretty thin there at the linebacker spot. So a good D-line can, I think, make life a lot easier for the linebackers, especially in kind of the 3-4 system that we run, where they're kind of eating up blocks and everything like that. So, yeah, hopefully the linebackers don't get exposed too much, but yeah, it's definitely a weak unit. You know, I think we like the promise of Sean Deon Hamilton, and John Bostic looks like a nice pickup, and is kind of outplaying whatever money we're paying him. But yeah, it's a fairly weak unit. Behind that, we've got some kind of young guys that have, you know, some promise, but they're just inexperienced and kind of late round draft picks. So yeah, we'll see for sure.
Now, you already a little bit earlier kind of flagged what you thought they might sort of do record wise. I guess what are your hopes for the season as a whole? Yeah,
I mean, I hope that we have a winning record and somehow are able to kind of sneak into the playoffs as a wild card. I don't think it's possible that we'll win the division, with kind of the Eagles and Cowboys being playoff teams and probably being playoff teams again this year. But yeah, I mean, that's the hope. Hopefully we can, you know, pick off some of the early games that are really tough on our schedule and just basically play solid defense, run the ball, kind of limit turnovers, and find a way to sneak out some wins, and yeah, get a winning record. But my hope is yeah, probably 9-7, maybe 10-6 would kind of be the best case scenario.
And the reality is.
I'd say reality, you know, is probably, unfortunately, is that.
Sorry, Aaron, I'm not
man's land.
I'm not dropping it down on Washington, but you know, just sort of, you know, you got to gloss over the sort of the Homer wishes, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, outside of I think Jay Gruden's first season, they've never finished worse than 7-9. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, 7-9 is pretty realistic, especially considering, you know, last season with all the injuries, and they were 6-3. They were 5-2, 6-3. They finished 7-9. So I think the roster is actually better this year. And just, you know, we've got a tough schedule, and the, you know, Trent Williams situation, the quarterback, and all that kind of stuff hurts, obviously. But I think 7-9 is, you know, fairly realistic for this team.
Yeah, look, the Alex Smith injury really put you on a different trajectory, because if we were talking about all the same pieces in place and Alex Smith under centre, then, you know, I don't think there'd be any doubt you'd be playoff contenders, you know, or in the conversation. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think we'd be in the conversation. But yeah, who knows? I mean, it could be a blessing in disguise if Haskins turns out to be the real deal. So we'll see. Now, something we've been asking all our guests that we've been having on for team previews is for something a little bit different. Is fast forward. Let's fast forward 12 months. So we're talking to you this time in 2020. What do you think the headline would be if you were writing the headline for the whole of the 2019 season? So repeat that for me one more time. Sorry, it's not a simple explanation, is it? It's like, so we're looking back at the 2019 season that was now. So just give me
this time next year.
What will be
the headline for what the season was for the Redskins?
That's a good one. So I'd go with Redskins. Look to build on promising young core.
Nice.
Something like that.
Nice.
With a new head coach.
With you,
Yeah.
is that like something that you'd like to see? Have you sort of had enough of the Gruden experience?
I actually like Gruden, and I think he's kind of been dealt a pretty crappy hand most of the years he's been here. And considering who his bosses are, I think he's done a pretty good job. So I like him, unless it's just a complete disaster. This season, which is in the realm of possibility. Unless it's a complete disaster, I'd like to see him stick around because I don't want our rookie quarterback having to change coaches and systems and slowing his development. And I think Gruden could is a solid coach. And unless it's a just unmitigated disaster this year, everything falls apart, I'd like to see him come back.
Nice, yeah. You just you went like the pretty conservative route there, and then right at the end, you just like, bam, you knocked it, out of the park. No, lovely. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us once again. It's always a pleasure, and people can check out Hogshaven on Twitter at Hogshaven, and also check out the blog at hogshaven.com. Some great content there, especially for Redskins fans.
Yep, you got it.
Perfect. Well, listen, we'll let you enjoy your Saturday night. I was going to say, I always get confused with
Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Plans? What are the plans, Aaron? Tell everybody over here. What are you doing? You're in Washington, aren't you? Washington. Are you in the city as a central, or I don't know what the area is there, or do you live like most people and you sort of go in? Is it West Virginia? Where do people, they work in Washington but they actually live somewhere else, don't they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, DC is small. I live I live right in the city.
Okay.
Probably a 10-minute train ride, metro ride from downtown and the White House and everything. 10-15 minutes. I live right in the city. But most people live in Virginia or Maryland. Those are two states that border. Yeah. And actually, I grew up in Virginia, Northern Virginia, outside of DC, but I live in this city proper now.
So what are the plans, mate? What's rocking in Washington Central tonight?
Well, not too much. My girlfriend and my dog are being very patient, waiting outside.
Outside? Do you keep her outside in the hallway? What are you doing? She's not going to be your girlfriend for very long if you do that.
No, they're in the living room. Just relaxing. But I think we're just going to cook dinner at home. It's going to be pretty low key tonight.
Okay, cool.
Nothing
pass
crazy.
on our best to your girlfriend and give the dog a pat.
Thank you. I will.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us, Aaron. Always a pleasure, mate, and giving up your time to come on the Aussie Guys team previews. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. It was great talking to you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Aaron.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was our Washington Redskins preview, G. Aaron's a nice guy.
He's, and it's good the more that we, how many years we had Aaron on now? Is that
second? I think it might be.
It's only second.
I think
Did I
so.
speak to him last year?
I don't think you did. I think it was just me.
Because when he came online, he just said, "G'day, AJ."
Yeah, no, I think I
pretty much
spoke to him.
Yeah, pretty much just gave me the cold shoulder, but that's all right. That's okay. That's fine. No, I don't remember talking to him. Great bloke.
Yeah,
very
lovely
good.
Guy. Lovely guy.
And he'd be in the good books now. He can go back to his girlfriend cook. She's probably sitting there waiting for him to cook dinner.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
You're not getting out of this one too easily.
No. And lots to watch in Washington. Lots happening on the defensive side, which I like, and obviously big fan of Landon Collins and Montez Sweat, and
they've got a ton of rookies, on the offense, like the receivers that we spoke about.
Oh, and I forgot about Kelvin Harmon
and Geis. It's like a rookie season.
It is
really for him.
It is.
And Dwayne Haskins to see when he actually gets stuck into the lineup, which is going to happen unless we see Case Keenum balls out. But it's going to be one of those sort of decisions for Gruden that if if he's not balling out, but he's just getting the job done, they don't look flashy, but things are happening. They're winning more than they're losing. Do you just sit Haskins and say, mate, just at the moment,
Learn.
Just learn, just watch,
But
learn,
you know what?
playbook, watch film, and all that type of stuff.
The O-line is an issue, and so you don't.
It is.
Do you really want to throw him into such a bad
That's
situation?
why I asked Aaron about the O-line,
Yeah, yeah.
like protecting him. Like, it's just, at the moment that everybody's healthy,
Yep.
except for the fact that they've lost their the future Pro Bowler in Trent Williams.
Yeah.
and based again on the way that he was handled by the medical staff.
Yep.
No wonder they're choffing off to other countries to to learn a thing or two.
Yeah.
But it's all going to come down to if Case Keenum's getting destroyed out there, they're not going to get. Do you want to throw out Dwayne Haskins?
No, and that's a good way to ruin a rookie quarterback, isn't it? Because then they start hearing footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
If he gets clobbered, then next season he's going to be shell-shocked.
Shadows are everywhere, mate.
Shadows,
Yep.
yeah. It's not good. Quarterbacks have been ruined like that, haven't they?
Oh, most definitely.
Most
Yep.
definitely. So, all right. Anyway, thanks, G.
Except for Nate Peterman, who didn't have those, and he still threw 5 interceptions in a half. It had nothing to do with footsteps.
That's right.
I think a couple of them he sort of got hit as he threw it, but
Oh, possibly. Anyway, thanks, G. Thanks very much. Another preview done,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got one. I think our next one is maybe Tuesday evening, did I say?
Yes.
We've got another one. Anyway, we have to keep sort of queuing them up.
queuing them up.
Yep, lining them up, banging them out of the park, hopefully. So, yeah. All right. Thank you
Excellent.
very much. Well, thanks for listening. Appreciate your continued listening to our team previews and getting some good feedback on these. People enjoy them, and that's all we want. That's all we ask.
We're just giving you information.
Yeah, information. And speaking of information, we have to do our prediction pod.
Yes.
We want to do like a fantasy one.
It's all been thrown up in the air because of me
It is. Yeah,
going
yeah.
off and shafting you.
You
and
just
having
you
a holiday.
organise that. I'm going to keep going with these team previews, G, and you get on that
We'll get on
train and we'll work it out. Okay, all right. Well, on behalf of G and myself, thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.